random MLB takeaways, Jordan Walker looks like a collapsing sandcastle whenever he swings the bat. And we're actually going to take a moment here and do a deep dive on this one and try to figure out what's going on with him. Because as a Cardinals fan, this troubles me a lot because this was supposed to be the future of our team. This was supposed to be our future star. And he's a guy so far this season with a negative 0.6 WAR and a 53 WRC plus, and that's been the story of him in the big leagues. And yes, he's been young, but he's been supposedly big league ready for some time now. We got to take a look at what is really going on and why does his swing look so off? I mean, visually it looks off, right? All right, so let's walk through this a little bit, right? So Jordan Walker obviously has very elite bat speed. He has a very long swing as well, which probably isn't going to help him with contact. So let's take a look at his swing and see if my unprofessional eye can pick apart anything that's going wrong here. Now, first off, we're going to take a look at his zones, right? So looking at the strike zone, where does he struggle? Where does he get pitched? Where does he hit the ball well? So his strengths are pitches up in the zone and pitches that are inside. His weaknesses are pitches down the middle and down and away. So obviously we can see pitchers try to keep the ball down and away as much as possible. Obviously you have to come up and in sometimes, but for the most part, high majority of pitches are down and away. There's a reason for this. And so I think a good place to start is by doing some side-by-side comparisons with him and some other hitters. Starting off with Giancarlo Stanton, right? Because these are two massive dudes with a lot of power, and Stanton's really the comparable guy when it comes to the most bat speed in the league. So when we start taking these guys side by side, the first thing we're going to notice is the shoulder difference, right? Walker's back shoulder is dipping a lot, whereas Stanton is staying tall. And this is probably the first thing that kind of leads to looking like a collapsing sandcastle when Walker swings. As we can see, as the swing goes along, Stanton stays more upright, and Walker continues to tilt more and more. Stanton is upright, he's balanced, and he's strong, whereas Walker's upper body is starting to break and collapse. Now, at least in this one video, there's another difference that we can take is if we notice where the contact point is, Jordan Walker made contact much deeper, and Stanton got this ball out more in front. All right, so maybe Stanton's not the best example here. So we're going to keep doing some different comparisons with other big sluggers. So we're going to take Jorge Soler. And I think Jorge Soler, as we go along with this swing, you're going to kind of see Soler is very similar to Stanton. So a lot of the differences are kind of similar between Soler and Walker as the differences were between Stanton and Walker. Right, so we're going to see Soler staying more upright and more solid. It's also similar with Oneil Cruz, right? Oneil Cruz is another big slugger. He's obviously left-handed, but another guy with the elite bat speed. We're obviously going to see him stay upright with his backside, more stable, even on an outside pitch here, right? So he's even not balanced on this swing, but he does keep more upright. So when you compare these three, there's a very big difference. But let's take a look at the best big hitter in the game, and that's Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge and Jordan Walker are actually incredibly similar when we start taking this side-by-side look, at least when it comes to the upper body that we've been looking at so far. And this is really the teacher man effect, right? So this is kind of the thing that Judge has been taking on, talking about snapping that backside to get more whip in the swing, and it works for Judge and it works for some hitters, right? But when we're looking at big sluggers and we're looking at a guy who is really not having success, comparing him to the other big sluggers in the game, maybe staying more upright and more balanced is the answer right here. Now, this is probably an off-season answer. This would be kind of hard to change mid-season, but the question has to be asked, is this really the most effective thing for Jordan Walker at this point? Now, the example that I have for Jordan Walker maybe needing to make this change is James Wood, another big guy who's recently been called up to the big leagues and is actually hitting really well. If you watch James Wood in his early time in the minor leagues, his swing looked a lot like Jordan Walker's. He looked like he was collapsing all the time. But he actually made some changes right before getting called up to the big leagues that really pushed him over the top, and now he stays more balanced. So now James Wood looks more like Jorge Soler, Giancarlo Stanton. So we can see him making the change away from the Aaron Judge type of swing actually was very beneficial for him, I think. And so I'm not saying this is the answer because this is one of those things in a swing where it can be done either way and it can work either way, but it's one of those things where it needs to at least be investigated on Walker's part if maybe staying a little bit more balanced in this regard would help him. Because now as we transition and start to talk about the lower body, I think we're going to realize that balance is an absolutely massive issue for him. And if balance is an absolutely massive issue for you, and you're already a really strong guy, keeping that upper body balanced and losing some of that whip might be the necessary thing to help keep that lower body in check, right? So if we look at a couple of swings And we're going to take screenshots here of either the point of contact or the point that should be contact as he swings and misses. And we actually have pictures all over the zone. But if you look at the shape of his body, you're actually going to see his legs up to his hips are actually moving towards third base, and then his upper body is going back towards first base. Now, this is the lack of balance I'm talking about. Now, yes, the upper body leaning over towards first base is that teacher man technique, and that's fine. But when we look at Aaron Judge's swing here, you notice Aaron Judge has the upper body leaning towards first base, but his lower body is still straight up and down. And you notice this really through the extension of the swing, because oftentimes when Jordan Walker swings, you see his front foot flying out completely. And I don't just mean the front foot opening like this. I mean the entire leg flies out all the way. This is because his hips are shifting towards third base, and then that foot has to clear out to also go to third base. Now this explains why he's good at hitting inside pitches, or at least decent at hitting inside pitches, because your weight needs to be going where the ball is going. So if you're trying to hit the ball down the third base line, your weight going down the third base line isn't that big a deal. But if you're trying to hit the ball down the first base line or an outside pitch that you're trying to get around, you need your weight to stay behind the ball. So there's really two ways about this, right? So you can either throw your weight or you can stay balanced. Staying balanced works pretty much all the time. If you're balanced, you can hit a pitch opposite field, pull it, or hit it up the middle. But if you're not balanced, you can still hit a ball effectively as long as the direction you're not balanced is following the ball. But since Jordan Walker's weight is always going towards third base, he never has the chance to really hit a pitch that is down and away. He can hit a pitch that is up and away because his arms are long enough to get around that pitch even with his weight falling. So I think the big thing he needs to change is to get that base, those legs, as he's swinging to stay up and down, upright, and balanced. But you can do that whip with the back shoulders, create that momentum with the bat. But the problem is when you do this motion, you're also causing your hips to try to shoot out. So you have to either, one, create a lot of strength and teach your hips not to do what they want to do in that scenario, or two, stop dropping your shoulders and dipping to make it easier on your hips to stay balanced as they should be, right? We can see that Judge has built up the strength to even on those outside pitches, his weight shifts and follows the pitch, his legs stay upright, and he doesn't flail out towards third base. And that's really the effect that Jordan Walker needs to achieve, or else pitchers are really just going to keep targeting down and away. There's no way he's really going to be able to hit it at any point. But that's just my very unexpert opinion.